I think sometimes the politics chose me. I don't know if I chose it, but I think it chose me. And
Okay.
we're here to
Yes.
serve. I mean, it's a pleasure serving alongside stalwarts like yourself who have gone before and have blazed the trail. And so for me, it's both a trying and exciting time,
Yes,
because
indeed.
I see the hurdles that we have to face at it, but then I also see the potential, and I think that's what keeps us going.
Yeah, yeah.
All that Guyana can be. There's a national song that says what Guyana's sons and daughters
can be.
And so I think that's my general motivation.
Okay, good. All right, thank you very much, Honorable Walton-Desir, for that brief insight of who you are and why you have chosen politics. Apart from your portfolio in the National Assembly as Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, I know you have extra parliamentary responsibilities. You are one of the members of parliament serving in I think a few constituencies there in the North Georgetown district. Do you mind sharing with our viewers the names of those constituencies and what you have been doing thus far in the constituencies?
Great, yes, thank you. So I am so honored to be the constituency rep for the Sophia area and border. I'm not going to give the numbers, but just so people understand the general location. And so far, for the 9 months since we've been in Parliament, what I've been doing is engaging the leadership in the area in order to be able to get an understanding of what are the issues that the people have. And so I think, having concluded that, what we're now about to roll out is a more resident to MP type program. So we're going to be making contact with each resident in that area to find out, to map the area, because I think, Annette, and this is something we have discussed so often, is that we have to make decisions based on data.
Exactly.
And to do that, we have to collect data. So we're going to be coming around. So look out for us. Sophia, look out for us in the border area. We're going to be coming around because we want to have an idea of every resident in the area.
Yes.
Every household. What are their needs? How is it that we can better serve them?
Okay.
And so, I would want to say to folks, when they see us coming around, please feel free to share the information.
Yes.
Because we cannot represent you unless we have information.
Good.
Right? It's so important. I know one of the things that you've always said is we need for you to tell us what the problems are so that we can represent.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And so that's where we are now.
All right.
I'm thinking that we will do a few exciting summer programs for the children now that school is out.
Yes.
We have the COVID restrictions, but we have to work around that so that they have something to look forward to.
Okay.
So I'm sure I'll be sharing a lot more of that with you. And of course, I know I can count on you to disseminate that information on the program.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Walton-Desir. But apart from you doing the actual groundwork, going into the various communities in the constituencies, do you have a permanent office space? So, if persons want to come and meet with you, where can they find Amanza Walton-Desir?
We will be. I'm glad you asked that. We're going to be making that announcement in the new week because we're looking at 2 possible locations. So we will be making that announcement, and I'm sure I can rely on you to make that. We want to finalize it because, look, it is important that we be able to be at a place where our staff, our constituents are able to come to us.
Yes.
That they know that on Thursday or Friday you can come, you can meet with your MP. And so I know across the opposition we are working on those things. So, but until we have the constituency specific office, we can be found at the office of the leader of the opposition on Crow Street. But we will be announcing that venue pretty soon.
Okay,
we have
good.
2 options, so
Okay.
we're trying to see which is the better for the purposes that we want.
All right, good. Thank you very much. Honorable Walton-Desir, You have been an MP for close to, it's now about 11 months
10,
or
11
10, between 10 to 11 months. And, we're losing track of things, because there's so many other things that, have overtaken these main events. But that being said, can you share with our viewers and listeners, how you have found serving as an MP thus far?
Well, the serving as an MP has been, it has been such an honor for me to represent the people of Guyana. So it is what we wake up to do.
Yes.
And I often say that, we do hear from people, oh, the MPs are not doing enough, the MPs are not doing enough. But I often say that I would love to invite just a member of a constituency on a day with us.
Yes.
So that they understand
the nature of our work.
How much work we do.
Yeah.
The nature of our work, and the fact that it is not it's not easy work. I keep saying to people that to be able to better represent them, and we got to do our research, we have to do our analysis, we have to do our assessment, and we do that ourselves.
Exactly.
We don't have staff and so on to help us do, so we have to do all of this ourselves, and then we have to go and meet the people. But it is what we signed up for.
Yes.
So we are not complaining, but I would love one of these days to maybe take a few of my constituents to let them see a day in the life of your MP.
Exactly.
Like, what is it that we do?
Yes.
So that people understand. And look, the other, I have one disappointment though, and that is like the state of our politics. It is abysmal.
Yes.
I do not understand for the life of me why it cannot be understood, particularly by the government, that a vibrant opposition is essential to democracy.
Yes.
It is essential that we be able to question you. It is essential that we be able to hold you accountable, not for our own purposes, but because we are representing the people.
And more than 49% of the
more
people.
More than 49% of the people. And so I often say that, I often give an example. As a parent, you work hard for your money. Your child comes and says, oh, mommy, I want $10,000. You have to find out what for.
Yes.
You have to find out, how you intend to spend it. How you intend to pay it back. Is it a loan? You're coming for a gift?
Yes.
So you put that on the national scale.
Yes.
And for example, you will understand why when the estimates come, we have to scrutinize it. And it is our hard-earned tax-paying money.
Exactly.
It's the same teachers, the doctors,
the nurses,
the sanitation workers, the daycare workers, who ain't get a raise of pay yet, But their monies, their taxed dollars are being just spent willy-nilly, and people operate as if the opposition doesn't have a role to scrutinize, but we do.
Exactly.
And we do it on behalf of the Guyanese people, right? Because if the government squanders the money, it will mean for them, they're not able to get an increase. It will mean an increase in taxation.
Yes.
And so we are the guardians, as it were, of their livelihood. And so I really want to say to those of our listening audience that we need to have a different mindset when it comes to politics. I am saddened that 50-something years after our independence, we still with this race issue, right? We still mired and shackled by race, and if we do not break out of that, Guyana is not going to reach her potential. She's never going to reach her potential if we don't break out of it.
Indeed, and I'm happy that you touch a bit on the whole race politics here in Guyana. And if truth to be told, we know exactly which corner, in which one of the political corners you will see this race card being played. And, we can go as far back as what transpired after August 2nd, 2020, where you have a number of Afro-Guyanese, predominantly Afro-Guyanese, who would have lost their jobs. We've seen who are now being placed before the courts. You understand me? You've seen who would have had their lands taken back from them. You understand me? So it clearly shows, Amanza, that indeed we do have a racial problem in this nation, and we must be able to confront the elephant in the room.
And Annette, the sad part, because of course a lot of people remember a few months ago I was at a baptism in fire where I was called a racist because people twisted my words, etc. But the point that you make is a very, very important point. And I think what often fails our people in understanding the whole picture is that we have to promote a nation where we are ethnically secure.
Yes.
I am secure in my identity as a Guyanese. I'm secure in my identity as an Afro-Guyanese. And my Indian brothers and sisters must be secure in their identity first as Guyanese and then as an Indo-Guyanese.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Because we have to begin to respect the strengths of each other. We got to begin to be able to meaningfully celebrate the differences. And that's the only way I think we're going to break down these walls. And the other thing that people must absolutely understand is that to a safe society, a secure society, depends on every member of the society being treated equally.
Exactly.
So it is important for the PPPC supporters to understand that when you condone racism in your party, you are making the nation insecure. You understand? Because you will create a group of people with nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And then you become vulnerable.
That is so true.
You understand?
That is
why there's a rise in crime and so on and so forth. Because when you create a state that there is inequality, deliberately orchestrated inequality. It's not a case where, a man is failing because he's lazy. It's a case where a man is failing because the system is set up to ensure that he fails.
Exactly. And I do agree with you.
You understand?
And
so the day that the supporters of the PPPC, of the AP and UAFC understand that, oh God, at a minimum, let us just respect each other's human rights, respect that just like how you got the right to own a piece of property, I have the right to own a piece of property too.
Exactly.
You understand? And that you supporting a government that will take away my property just makes me a little more desperate, and it makes you vulnerable. It makes you susceptible to me wanting what you got. And you create a whole unsafe environment. And so this is why Guyanese from every walk of life got to start speaking up against the PPP and their nonsense, because they're taking us down a path that you're going to see chaos in this country. You're going to see people who are saying, we're back against the wall, and that is it.
Enough is enough.
Enough is enough. And so it might feel good for a while to see, for example, Owen Field being paraded up and down the step, and this body Annette being dragged before the police and arrested for cybercrime. It may feel good temporarily. But what you do not see is the bigger picture, that you are creating an unstable society.
Yeah, I do agree with you. All right, I guess, this particular, issue on race or race politics, that is for another, that's for another conversation. And I do believe as young leaders, this is something we must face and we must address, because we don't want future generations to come and have to inherit this whole racial, disparity in our society.
If we don't stop it now, Annette, if we do, this generation, the young people like myself, yourself, and those who are coming, gotta be the ones to arrest this situation.
Exactly. All right, MP, I would like to turn our discussion or our focus in another direction, and that is on COVID-19. And you know that, and I always like to remind Guyanese what the PPP would have inherited on the 2nd of August 2020. Our first case was on the 11th of March 2020. And we hadn't a budget to work with. But as a caring administration, we started to put things in place so that the lives of our people could have been safeguarded. did. So when we left office, you had 21 deaths.
Right.
474 confirmed cases.
Right.
Now, 300, today marks 335 days since the People's Progressive Party Civic has been installed into office. We now have the total death rate for COVID as at last night was 473. Where are we going? How would you describe the handling of this pandemic by the People's Progressive Party Civic?
I have lost all confidence in the Minister of Health with his handling of this pandemic. And we have to, one of the things we have to be doing continuously is being honest with ourselves. Yeah. And the reality is that you recall that the PPPC started out on the foot that COVID-19 was a hoax, that the coalition was pushing to stay in power. You remember that?
Yeah, very distinctly.
So they come now with those irresponsible statements. They now have to backpedal to make their own supporters understand that, look, this thing is actually serious. And they're having the dickens of a time convincing their supporters that COVID-19 is serious. So what did they inherit? And, you know, I can speak not even from a political perspective, but from somebody who was in the public service system at the time. They had a robust program. Every agency, including the agency I was at, the Civil Aviation Authority, had to present a COVID-19 action plan. As to how you will rotate workers. And so every agency, every ministry had that. That was handed over to them. They had a multi-stakeholder task force in place. Which them as the opposition were invited to be a part of. Right? And I think that was headed at the time by now opposition leader. And so it was an inclusionary approach to the management of the thing. And so they had a number of plans that they inherited. They shelved that. Because for some reason, the PPPC finds it difficult to say, look, this was a good idea that the coalition had. We will continue it. What they generally do, Annette, is that they discontinue it, and then they go bring it back under a different name, as if it is their grand idea. Right? So, but then they started saying, oh, when they wanted to justify the rising death rate, there was lack of testing. But lack of testing don't correlate with the amount of people dying. Testing is just that, testing. Then you had the issue where when the David Granger administration said that we were going to build a Liliendahl specialty hospital, all over the press, it was bloody murder, oh, they're wasting money. Now, they have quietly taken up the facility and they are even extending it. Right? But at the same time, they want to paint the coalition as irresponsible when it comes to the management of the pandemic. I am not impressed with how they have handled it. You would see ministers, for example, in crowds without masks, not appropriately socially distanced the way we are, etc. It's mind-boggling to me. You saw the installed VP and the president fishing on the Borosiri at midnight in breach of the regulations, in breach of the COVID guidelines.
Everything.
So there's no leadership by example. And so they continue to disrespect the Guyanese people. They continue to flout the laws because they clearly believe that they are above the law. And so this is why I am afraid we will continue to see an increase in the COVID cases. And then, Annette, you see that COVID grant? That $25,000. The PPP is either they don't understand or they don't care. Because when you are going to give out relief, and you're going to give one house because they support you, and you're going to skip this house because they don't support you, what you are doing is undermining your own efforts, because a lot of people are saying, well, you didn't give me $25,000. Why you want to go and take a vaccine now?
Yep.
You know, like you missed me with the $25,000, missed me with the vaccine. I have no. So the government continues to be short-sighted because they cannot, for the life of them, just put down the racist tendencies. They cannot for 1 second depoliticize this matter and say, look, this is a national crisis. Members of the opposition, let us sit, let us work together.
Yep.
What is the harm in that?
I don't know. I guess, we know that for $7 billion was approved in the National Assembly for the disbursement of the 25,000 COVID grant. And Amanza, I guess the reason why they don't want us to be a part of the task force or on any committee is as a result of, they lack transparency.
Absolutely.
And they lack accountability, because us having a representative there would ensure that every household, every community benefits or benefited from that 25,000 cash grant.
If you look across the Caribbean countries, what the governments there did is they said, MPs of the opposition, MPs of the government,
yes,
you let us sit together. And what they allowed was the MPs of the opposition to distribute
exactly
the COVID relief in their areas. That way, they made sure that everybody had. And so this is why you see they are doing a better job of tackling the pandemic because they are leaving the politics out of it.
Exactly.
It's a humanitarian crisis.
Yes.
And so can you imagine how much better off Annette would be if Frank Anthony and them could say, listen, opposition MPs, government MPs, let us get together. You make sure, or you accompany the team to distribute in your area. We're going to be in your area here. And so we together make sure that everybody gets the relief. That is not hard.
No. And then, the other thing, Amanza, just want us to wrap up on this particular point in another minute or so, is that the government thus far, they have been receiving a lot of aids, from international donors. I think recently they received some amount of money. I can't remember the total sum from World Bank. You understand? We don't know where these monies are going. We just don't know. And, the government is not coming clean with us. And that is why you have a lot of communities still being unserved with the 25,000 COVID grant.
Precisely.
But we just have to ensure that we continue to expose and dispose of what the government is doing.
And it is going to be a problem because, look, you had a rice farmer that hung himself, that committed suicide on the quarantine because of the devastation he faced with the flood. Can you imagine?
Yep.
Can you imagine? And this is in a PPP stronghold area. And he has not gotten relief as yet. So their own people they are punishing as well because they want those monies to do their own thing.
But you remember, Amanza, a lot was invested by, so-called, private investors. So probably they got to pay back. So what they're doing, the hurtful thing is that they're using taxpayers' money because, as you rightfully put, the 25,000 per household, those monies are actually taxpayers' money. It's not coming out from any banker or an account or exactly, Mr. Third Term. So I think we would have covered a whole lot on COVID-19 thus far. So I now want to turn our attention to your portfolio responsibility. And this is what I will pose to you. You have oversight for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. However, the mission and vision of the ministry, and I quote, as the principal initiator and coordinator of the formulation and implementation of Guyana's foreign policy, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will actively promote, enhance, and protect Guyana's interest and image within the international community, unquote. In your own words, how do you see this being relevant under the People's Progressive Party civic regime?
Well, that ought to be what they should, that is what they ought to be doing. But they're doing anything but that. You notice in that statement they speak about the interests of Guyana?
Yes.
I am not convinced that the PPPC regime has any idea about the national interest. They have a partisan interest. And because they have a partisan interest, what is that partisan interest? Any foreign policy initiative or step you see the PPP takes, it is only to advance and enrich a few of them. Save and except that border controversy issue.
Yes.
Right? And the only reason I think that is still intact is because they know that they would look very, very disingenuous to dismantle the whole team and so on. And, you know, they've kept on Carl Greenwich, and they have by and large kept the entire team intact, which is an excellent thing.
Yes.
But outside of that issue of our sovereignty, I don't think the PPPC can explain or express to the Guyanese people what is the national interest. Because the truth is that they don't care about the national interest.
Exactly.
They have their own partisan interest. And this is why you see we blundered the thing with Taiwan.
But I was no comment. I was no comment to that.
Precisely.
But you can
so
continue.
This is why we blundered the thing about Taiwan, and this is why we can believe that we can disrespect a sitting Prime Minister CARICOM. Right? This is why we can believe that we don't have to explain to Guyana why we voted no against the bill on racism and xenophobia. And so because there is no North Star guiding them. It is transactional. It is about what Barjaglia wake up this morning.
Yeah.
And he thinks he wants to do this. This is what he's going to do. So there is no national interest. Because you understand, having been in the system, that there is a national interest. And then from that national interest, there's a domestic component and a foreign relations component. And at all times, what you do in terms of the foreign relations has to be to advance, to support the national component and the national objective. So the PPP, to my mind, have no clue.
No, because, you know, and this is where I will now come in. On this whole Taiwan issue, we did not hear from the sitting installed Minister of Foreign Affairs. We actually learned through the United States Embassy here in Guyana about this arrangement, this agreement which was signed. And this was quite, you know, a surprise to Guyanese. And I know as Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, you would have written to the minister there to give an explanation to the Guyanese public what really happened here. Would you like to share where we are?
Was forthcoming.
Nothing was forthcoming.
Nothing was forthcoming. And in fact, on the matter of the no vote as well, I would have written asking him, one, where are we in the steps to reverse that vote to a yes vote? Because look, the video and look, and this is what bothers me about why the PPP regime believed that they could just disrespect the intelligence of Guyanese. You understand?
Yeah.
We saw Guyana vote no. There is video evidence that Guyana voted no. Caroline Rodriguez-Burkett put out a statement that said that is not so. They voted yes.
Yes.
When the video evidence was proffered, they went silent. I wrote to Hugh Todd and I asked him, I said, look, this is the video evidence. Are you aware of this situation? What steps are you taking to reverse the situation? UTAD responds to me to say he refers me to Rodriguez Burkett's statement.
Mm-hmm.
That is it.
Irresponsible.
It's irresponsible. It is the hubris and the audacity.
And it clearly shows apparently that UTAD is not probably,
I am not convinced that UTAD is
well versed in these foreign
matters. He's not even well versed. I
matters.
think he's a puppet. I'm sorry to put it that bluntly, but he's a puppet. He doesn't engineer or have a say in what happens in the foreign affairs. He is simply there as a puppet, and one can see that when you assess the way he addresses issues, the way he answers questions in the National Assembly. Gail always got to be schooling him. That's nonsense.
Yeah, yes.
You have to listen. Guyanese got to understand. We don't have a big army. We do not have a large military. Therefore, diplomacy has to be your first line of defense. So this is not, and again, because we are so bogged down
into
in the racism and the politics that we cannot even see that you have a group of people in the PPP who are endangering Guyana daily. And you know what's the sad part about it? The people who are doing the nonsense, Annette, when things get out of control, they put their children on a plane, they fly them out to Florida, they fly them out to Queens, and it is the poor and ordinary Guyanese who will have to stay and face the battle.
Yes.
That's what's going to happen.
Yes.
We had seen that. You had seen prior to 2015 that a lot of the people and their families, they were here making all kind of bad decisions, but the children going to school in Florida.
Absolutely correct.
And they're going to Canal Number 2 and fool up the people. Meanwhile, their children, the people in Canal Number 2, their children in jeopardy, the welfare of their children in jeopardy, they don't know how they're feeding their children. But these ones that come in to fool them,
exactly.
their children in Florida
Elsewhere.
and Miami and Ontario and Brampton and so on and so forth.
Yes, thank you very much. So I'm happy that we were able to capture, the Taiwan situation and also, that vote that was taken on the xenophobia and the whole race thing and so forth, right? Thank you very much for sharing that. But Amanza, look, viewers, Sunday coming, July 4th. It's a very important day to us as, CARICOM or Caribbean people. So we will be celebrating CARICOM Day on Monday. But we know that July 4th, between 1973 and 1974, you had the signing of the Treaty of Chaguaramas. Yes, and you know that it was actually 4 countries, if my memory serves me accurately, Guyana, Barbados, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago that would have signed on to that treaty. But we would have seen, it might have been in November of 2020, between October 2020 to December 2020. Haiti being one of the member states of CARICOM, how Haitians have been treated. You had in excess of 26 Haitians who came in legally, and perhaps they were taken to some hotel, and then eventually some words got out, and the government stepped in, and they had these people all confined at the Hugo Chavez Center there in Anvawak on the west coast of Bubis. So, as Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs, how do you view the treatment of our Haitian brothers and sisters by this illegitimate regime?
And it's just sickening. Again, it sickens me to my stomach when I see that the PPP believes that they can treat human beings anyhow. We're not talking about ethnicity now, just they are first human beings.
Exactly.
What they have done recently reversing that law, it really goes against the spirit of the revised treaty. And let me say that Anil Nandlal thinks he is smart. And he uses a lot of words to try to impress people.
Yes.
But when you distill it, when you analyze it, he is not really saying anything at all. And so he, in setting the groundwork for this, said that, oh, the opposition is going to come to talk about race, trying to head us off of the past. So when we do talk about race, you can say, hey, you see what I told you? They're talking about race. Because Anil Nandlal knows that it is about the fact that the Haitians are of African descent.
Yes.
Because you know, when President Granger, as he then was, took the decision to allow Haitians into Guyana, you know what the PPP said? Oh, you're doing it to pad the voters list.
Exactly.
So immediately you could tell where their mind was. So they didn't see these people as people who are fleeing, high crime and chaos in their country.
Yes, for betterment.
They didn't see these as people coming to Guyana for betterment. They saw them as an attempt to pad the voters list. And that is ridiculous because there are a number of the PPPC supporters who migrated to the U.S. for betterment.
Yes.
Had the U.S. treated them like that, what would have happened? And you know, a lot of their supporters, Indo-Guyanese, are considered black people in the U.S.
I was about to make that point.
You understand? And so these distinctions that they just want to make back home here, when Annette Ferguson and Harinan Prasad go to the United States of America, it's two black people. And so had the U.S. adopted a posture towards a lot of them that have migrated, like the PPPC is adopted to the Haitians, where would they and their families be today? Because you know, pre-2015, they were the ones migrating in droves, the PPPC supporters.
Yes.
And you know, when we talk like this, they want to label us racist, but we're going to continue to talk like this because people have to understand that the time for race-based politics in Guyana is done, it is over. The world is becoming smaller.
Yes. And you know, Amanza, I want to turn our focus to a recent publication by the former president, Mr. David Granger. And this is what he said, and I quote here, "I think people are judging the Haitians falsely, and many of them don't want to stay here, and we are aware of that. They want to go to French-speaking countries," Granger said. He further posited that the number of Haitians in Guyana is significantly small, right, when compared to Venezuelans in the country. According to the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, there are approximately 22,000 Venezuelans, more than half of them women living in Guyana. You see, Amanza, I have a problem with what has happened, the posture taken by this illegitimate regime. And if you have been following the rants on social media, and every wherever possible they get a chance to speak, they're referring to the Haitians as persons being trafficking. But Amanza, you and I know there hasn't been any empirical evidence to substantiate the claims being made by the People's Progressive Party. All that this nation has been told is that, well, look, the government has been speaking to the government of Suriname. The government has been speaking to the government of Brazil and some other area, and they don't want the Haitians and all kind of thing, and that these people are being used for human trafficking. What do you have to say to that?
Yeah, but you notice they're speaking to everybody else but the Haitian government.
Yes.
And this is why you see it is important that as a population we have to begin to analyze what the PPP says. And then you know that when an issue arises in government, your first course of action is to engage the government of the other country bilaterally.
Yes.
If that fails, you then look to see if you are a part of any collection of states, such as CARICOM, and then you raise it at that forum. The PPP has not done that. They haven't spoken to the government of Haiti about their concerns. They have not spoken to the CARICOM about their concerns.
Exactly, because I want to know, I'm questioning why the haste last week. Because few days will be heads of government meeting.
Precisely.
And what your concerns could have been addressed at that level.
Your concerns should have been taken to the heads of government that have been there too.
Yeah.
And so you see just how they'll just lie. They don't know where to put it. They are lying. The other thing is, you cannot say that it is only the Haitians that could be trafficked. Are the Haitian people the only people that could be trafficked? No, you look around Georgetown and you see the type of people engaged in a certain kind of less than desirable employment. And you will see it's not the Haitian.
Exactly.
You will see the Haitian people doing sanitation work,
security
work.
Yes.
Work that Guyanese may not necessarily want to do.
And to add to your comment, Amanza, is that the Haitians, you don't find the Haitians being involved in crime. You don't, as you rightfully said, these unsavory behaviors. You don't see it, but you get it from, a different set of people.
Yes.
So why would a government who claim to be professing that, they're a government for all or they're a government for everybody, but yet you treated one set of people differently.
So, and then here why their reasoning don't make no sense. Again, you cannot have, for people to be trafficked, they have to have traffickers. What are you doing about the traffickers?
But exactly.
You're victimizing the victims, and you're punishing the victims.
Exactly.
And the people who are trafficking them, as you claim, are left untouched to traffic other populations. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It doesn't. It doesn't. And the laughable thing is, because I want to wrap up so that we can move on the other areas. Exactly. The other thing is on this particular issue is that you're being told, or the nation is being told by that side, that Haitians are being locked in hotels. Haitians are being they're in the bush doing prostitution. It's laughable. Where is the evidence? All you're coming to say to Guyanese is bare words, but nothing to back up what you're saying.
But that's why they can get away with it. They can get away with it because they know that they have people that if they say this red pen is blue, can believe this red pen is blue.
Exactly. So on this note here, Amanza, before we move to the other two areas for discussion, this is what the party leader said. The PNCR leader made a call for the government to implement policies that are humane. Let us deal with the issues and not simply change the law because you don't like the people. And I certainly endorse this.
But that's the only way a progressive state operates. And I am telling you, Annette, we are going to see we're going to get into some difficulty with the U.S. with this thing that we're doing with Haiti. Because if you look at what the Biden administration has done in the U.S., they have implemented a more progressive immigration policy as it relates to Haiti. So again, we are moving and swimming against the tide in terms of what the world outlook is. The other thing is President Granger is right in that what we need is a smart immigration policy.
Yes.
We are not saying that every person that comes to Guyana must be able to assume and acquire citizenship. We're not saying that, but there are models all around the world where people can work they can get residency status, they can pay taxes, which would mean a broader tax base for us, which would mean that we would have a bigger workforce, because 750,000 people can't carry the development that Guyana is going to go through in the next couple of years.
And you know, it is not only Americans that would have built or developed America. You know that.
Primarily, it wasn't.
Good.
And President President Biden came out 2 days ago and said it, that America was built on the backs of immigrants.
Exactly.
So we're not saying anything unpopular, but again, the PPP is not for the development of Guyana. They could talk till the sun go down, till the cows come home. They are not for the development of Guyana. They are for enriching themselves and their families at the expense of all Guyanese. But I am banking on the young people. We're a little more traveled, we're a bit more exposed than the younger folks of yesteryear, and maybe we can be the ones to break Guyana out of this
exactly.
thing once and for all.
Yes. Amanza, we have 10 minutes into program time, and I would want for us to utilize, the minutes we have left to focus on the procurement of the Sputnik V vaccine. And Amanza, that we, Guyana, only became aware of how the last batch, the 20,000, the 200, thank you very much, the 200,000, yes, that's the last batch, how it was procured. And basically, we became aware of this after we drilled. The leader of the opposition led the way in the National Assembly last Monday, July the 14th, right? Amanza, can you share with us what or why has the opposition taken such a posture against the whole Sputnik vaccine?
Look, Annette, thanks for raising that, because I think we have to make it very clear to the public that the APNU ANC is not against vaccination. So let's take care of that issue once and for all. What we said is that, because I took the Sputnik vaccine.
I took it too. I took both.
I took the vaccine based on the representation by Frank Anthony that I get these vaccines from the Russian government. Right? Now, you and I know that when vaccines come government to government,
yes,
it's a different arrangement. You can be sure about certain things. You can be sure about the chain of custody. You can be sure that it was transported under a certain protocol that would ensure that when it reaches to Guyana, its potency is the same, so it's effective. Come to find out on June 14th in the National Assembly that in fact it was not procured from the Russian government, but through a middleman, the Sheikh Al Maktoum person. So immediately you have to ask questions.
Yeah.
And it is so annoying to see people trying to blame the opposition. The first thing, for example, Priya Manik-Chan, who ought to be a far more intelligent woman than she is displaying, said that, we had our vaccine and now we're trying to prevent the people from getting their vaccine. It is so nonsensical. When we took the vaccine and we encouraged people to take the Sputnik vaccine, we were not in possession. The nation did not know that this thing was procured
exactly
from a middleman. And so the leader of the opposition said, look, halt the use of the Sputnik V vaccine. We got AstraZeneca. We got Sinopharm. Give the people that.
Exactly.
Do not give them the Sputnik vaccine because we are not sure what the people are getting.
Exactly.
And that is all.
Until these gray areas are addressed.
Up.
Exactly.
Now, Annette, Frank Anthony, instead of responding to the leader of the opposition, what he did, he put a letter. When you read that letter, the letter is dated the 22nd of June.
Yes.
A couple of things came to my mind. So it's only now Frank Anthony writing to make sure that we get the right vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do this due diligence before.
Mm-hmm.
Because had you done it before, that letter would be dated since last year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing. The second thing is, in that letter says that, look, these are the shipments and the batch numbers, the certificates of analysis, the packing information. All of that was sent with the shipment.
Yes.
Oh God, if it was sent with the shipment, shouldn't the government of Guyana have it?
Mm-hmm.
And what is the difficulty in saying to the Guyanese people, look, this is the information that comes with the vaccine, this is the certificate of analysis. Instead of that, they start blaming the opposition.
Exactly.
Give Guyanese the information so that we can make an informed decision.
And what was further injurious to, I guess, to the government is that when the Prime Minister, the sitting chairman of CARICOM, when he was addressing his people there in Trinidad and Tobago, he was making the point that, well, look, Guyana has gone a far way, right? A far way than the other sister CARICOM members. It is because Guyana is using the Sputnik V vaccine that was not or has not been approved by WHO and PAHO. Oh my. Well, they killed the man. So the man was about to provide some aid, flood relief assistance. And the infantile government that we have, you understand me, what they did? Put ignorance, sacrificing your people because why? Dr. Keith Rowley spoke against or talk of something.
No, but you see, Dr. Keith Rowley, they didn't refuse the aid because of what he said about the Sputnik V. Leslie Ramsamy and the GCCI issued the most derogatory statement.
Although the man is irresponsible and all kind of things.
He don't care about his lives. Yes. And in response to that, he said, look, man, I have helped, I have intervened when necessary. We are in the process of providing humanitarian relief that you asked for. So how can you then say that I don't care? They're getting their feelings now and say, no, don't bring the aid. They don't want the aid. They just want pumps to pump the water out of the land. But Annette, that raises another issue because me and you sit down in the parliament and we approve money for pumps.
Exactly.
So if you're begging people for pumps,
well, the money gonna be pocket off.
There you go.
The money will be pocket off. Let us
just corruption after corruption after corruption, and the only people punishing are Guyanese. A rice farmer hang himself because of the devastating effects of the flood.
Yeah.
And the truth is, the PPP can talk smack. If the PPP had continued the drainage and irrigation program that the Ministry of Public Infrastructure had set up, this flooding would have never happened.
So
and they can't get away from the fact.
No, they cannot. They cannot. You know, so, time. Yes. And, the conversation is really getting heated. But just before we, bring the curtains finally down, I want to turn your attention to statements made by two congressmen, or three of them.
Okay.
I think it was three of them, calling on the government to ensure that every Guyanese benefit from the wealth or the patrimony of the nation. And after the congressmen and women came out, I note that Teixeira, this is what she had to say. Teixeira assures all Guyanese will benefit from Guyana's wealth after U.S. congressmen express concerns. Now, Amanza, you will agree with me, and all Guyanese viewers listening to us. We know we cannot trust the People's Progressive Party Civic. We saw exactly what they did to us in the National Assembly for the PAC chairmanship position. We saw what they did with the Deputy Speaker's position. We have seen what they have done regarding the statutory or the state boards, which we have not. The opposition was not given the opportunity to have a nominee sit on anything. So how would you view Tashira's response in connection with what the congressmen had to say?
Well, look, I think Gail, as we would say,
and that would be your close, and that would be your close remark.
I think Gail was in her feelings about what the congressmen said, because they're right. And you know, this is what I say very often. The PPP use people for their convenience.
Yes.
Between March 2nd and August 1st, 2020, whatever CARICOM said was gospel. But they can turn around now and disrespect the sitting chair of CARICOM.
Yes.
Between March 2nd and August 1st, 2020, if a U.S. congressman tweeted, the PPP took it as gospel, and all the newspapers carried it. Now, the congressmen are speaking again, but you don't like what they're saying. So you see that flip-flopping, and that is because the PPP is not on the side of right, the PPP is not on the side of law. If they were on the side of right, they wouldn't have had a problem with the statement the congressman made. But the fact that Gail took the time, and as Shadow Foreign Affairs Minister, I'm going to be addressing it in a more fulsome manner. Yeah. The fact that Gail took the time to issue a statement on the matter tells you that they are uncomfortable, because now they know that the U.S. is watching. You see this call that this lady Newland made, the senior official made to Hugh Todd, when Hugh Todd issued a statement, that them and Victoria Newland had talks about democracy and so on and so forth. We made the point that we know that Todd wasn't happy with the call. Because that is the person that whenever the U.S. is uncomfortable with certain things, they make it known through that person. And if you look at it recently, you will see that sanctions were imposed on Guatemala. I think it's Guatemala. Yes. One of these Central American countries. And she had visited just then. She just left that country on a very cordial visit. And the next day, the U.S. imposed sanctions. So we know for a fact that the U.S. is watching, and they are not happy. They are not happy. What does Gail do? Instead of getting on to the TV to say what they plan to do to progress Guyanese, half of her speech was criticizing the AP and UFC. Exactly. Well, hell, you fought to get into government, now govern. Exactly. Govern. Your plan cannot be to just blame the opposition for everything. Yes. Govern. Yes. Well, Amanza viewers, we're down to program time. But Amanza, the Honorable Amanza Walton-Desir, MP. All right. I just want to thank you very much for appearing on Facing the Nation with the Leader of the Opposition. And this must not be your first or last appearance, right? So I'll be reaching out more. I notice it with the Leader of the Opposition. Yeah. So the fact that you're there might be a sign of things to come. All right, no trouble, my dear. Yes, so viewers, this is all the time we have. And we're thankful that you have taken the time to join us here today on Facing the Nation. And I do look forward to you joining us next Friday for another program, Facing the Nation with the Leader of the Opposition. Before we finally go, let me take this opportunity on behalf of the Leader of the Opposition and all MPs. We want to wish each and every one of you happy CARICOM Day come Monday, July 5th, 2021. That being said, please be careful. Ensure that you adhere to the COVID-19 protocols. Wear your mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance. That being said, thank you very much. Do have a blessed weekend. May God richly bless you. May God bless your family. And by extension, may God bless our beautiful country, Guyana. Thank you.